So what I've decided to do, since I'm driving to work, and then it just hit me that I usually have between 30 and 60 minutes on my drive to work, I can take a little bit of time to speak to you guys. Obviously, I can't sit here and build a lineup with you while I'm driving. That would be crazy, and I'm not that good at this. But I can definitely talk to you guys similar to how I spoke to you guys in the previous videos about Cash Games 101 and DFS. Period. So, I basically just wanted to start by letting you guys know why I play more head-to-heads now than 50-50s. I used to play more 50-50s than head-to-heads when I did do my cash games. I guess, I don't know if it was because I was lazy and didn't feel like entering a bunch of head-to-heads, or I just didn't know the difference. But there is truly a difference in playing head-to-heads and 50-50s, although the object is to be better than half of the field. When you're playing a 50-50 lineup, if you're just say you're a one lineup guy and you're playing a bunch of 50-50s and a bunch of double ups, whatever site you're on, you still want to be better than 50% of the field. But playing a bunch of 50-50s in comparison to a bunch of head-to-heads, it is not as safe. It's more volatile. It's more of a tournament likeliness to cash, if that makes sense. What I'm saying is that if your lineup, your one lineup that you run, if it misses the cash line in 150-50, it's a very good chance it's going to miss the cash line in most or probably all of your 50-50s, if that makes sense, because the cash lines in 50-50s each contest aren't going to be much different than the next contest. You understand what I'm saying? So if you enter your one lineup in 20 50-50s and the cash line is, let's say, 260, that cash line is going to be close to 260 in all of your 50-50s. So if your lineup has 285, you're probably going to cash in every 50-50 that you play. Conceivably, if your lineup has 245, you're probably going to miss just about every 50-50 that you play. So that's why if you are playing one lineup, 50-50s lends itself to more volatility, although it doesn't seem that way. Now, the idea, which kind of makes sense, is that if you are going to play a bunch, a massive amount of 50-50s to play your cash games, then you truly should do more than one cash lineup to add to the safety of your cash ability. Because you may have one lineup that will legit miss every 50-50, and one of your lineups may legit smash every 50-50. So if that's the case, and just say you have the two lineups, one hits and one doesn't, then you at least cause yourself to profit, or at least close to break even, just depending on how much you play each lineup in, or whatever the case. Obviously, if both of your lineups miss, then you just didn't make good lineups, and that's just what's going to happen. You're going to have a losing night. There's not going to be anything you can do about it, no matter how many lineups you make, if your lineups aren't cashing. So you would say, oh, why would I want to just break even, or whatever the case? Well, if you've played DFS long enough and you've played, on the level that we've played on, winning your money back is essentially a win, because it's designed, essentially for you to lose over the long run. I mean, that's just what it is. So if you get your money back on a night, then you need to count your losses and count your blessings and accept that and move on to the next day. So that would be the idea of why you would want to have that chance to get your money back. Conceivably, if both of your lineups are good, then you're going to win everything, and you're probably going to essentially nearly double your money. So the risk reward factor is a little better when you make multiple lineups if you're playing in multiple 50-50s. I make it a point that you hear me when I say if you're playing multiple 50-50s. As I said, you make one lineup, enter it in, just say 20 50-50 contests. Your lineup is probably either going to hit everything or miss everything. You're either going to walk away with nothing, or you're going to walk away with nearly twice your bankroll, or whatever you play. If you play just say two lineups, then you have a chance that one lineup may have a slightly better score than another one, And that could be the difference between you losing everything and you breaking even. So even if that happens, that's not that bad. But then when you have the chance to, double up fully, both your lineups being well constructed and both your lineups hitting the cash line, then you can still have the same result that you would have if you played the one lineup that cash and everything. You see the difference right there? If you play one lineup, you have a chance to lose everything. You also have a chance to win everything. If you play two lineups, you still have a chance to lose everything. But essentially your chance to lose everything is reduced because you have another lineup to back you up that may win everything and cause you to break even. So you essentially, people say that you limit your upside and winnings with that. I say you limit your losses. You limit your potential to lose like that. As I said, obviously, if you just make bad lineups, you're going to lose no matter how many lineups you make if they're bad. But doing it that way with multiple lineups, playing in your 50-50s, you give yourself a chance to still recoup some in the event that that first lineup you make doesn't hit anything. Now, I'm not saying go out and make 10 different lineups and then play each lineup in 2 contests. I'm not saying that. I mean, you can. I mean, just think the more lineups you make, then the more chances that you're going to have to, recoup some if one of your lineup misses. So that's what I would say with that. If you do that, I would say the more lineups you make, then the more similarities you want your lineups to have. You don't want to make 5 lineups and have them vastly different. You want to have, most of the players the same, because those are the players that you want to anchor your lineup around, your core players, so that if your core players do well, then it'll just be a matter of the players that you put around them to make up your, whether your lineup is going to hit or not. Speaking of cash games, I'm going to go to head-to-heads because I feel as if you should make one lineup for your head-to-heads for the most part. Now, I do things a little differently, but that's because that's me, and I can tell you what I do later, but I want to just tell you the difference in the number of lineups with the contests that you're playing based on what you should be doing. I don't want to get into what I do and why I do it yet. That would be another video, but I want you guys to understand the aspect of it not being anything wrong with making multiple lineups in cash games if you're going to play them in 50-50s. People will say, oh, you should only make one lineup. I'm a one lineup guy, and that's fine. But if that one lineup hits, you're losing everything that you played if you're playing 50-50s. You play 2 lineups in 50-50s, you give yourself a chance to mitigate your losses. And you still keep your chance alive to win everything. So it's not like you're limiting the ability to win everything. If you make 2 good lineups, then you're winning everything. But if you make one bad lineup and one good lineup, then you're not losing everything. So that's the difference. When you're playing head-to-heads, conceivably you should play one lineup and run that thing across all of your head-to-head contests. And the reason is because head-to-heads have a way higher volatility in the cash line. I mean, let's face it, in each contest you're only playing one person, so the cash line is whatever the winning lineup has. So that cash line literally can vary 100 points or more, because you can play one guy that puts up 200 points and you can play another guy that puts up 300 points. Your job when you're making head-to-heads is to win more than you lose, like win more contests than you lose. So you want to build one lineup that's solid to give yourself a certain score so that you can capitalize and win against the guys that put up the 200s, 220s, 240s, the non-cashing scores. Now, in head-to-head, it lends itself to being less safe than a double up. I'm sorry, it lends itself to being less upside than a double up, because if you're playing if you're playing lineups and double ups in 50-50s, like I said, your lineup will probably cash everything or lose everything. And head-to-heads, well, yeah, it does lend itself to more safety, but it also tends to lend itself to slightly less upside. Because you can make a very good lineup that will come in the top 20% in double ups and literally cash every single double up, probably cash in triple ups, and come close to cashing in GPPs or whatever the case. But that same lineup that you make may still lose some of their head-to-head contests, just because you're going to have some opponents that are going to put up monster numbers. But the reason why it's safer is because you're capitalizing on the players that don't put up those monster numbers, and you're winning those contests. So the better your one lineup is, then conceivably the more opponents you'll be able to beat, because not every opponent is going to have that 330 point lineup. So if you get that lineup that might hit, 270, 275 or whatever the case, then you're probably going to be in good shape to beat, a lot of the players that don't put up that number. Granted, you'll run into some lineups that put up 300, that put up 320 that you're not going to beat. But that's why it's cash games, and that's why it's safe, and that's why you play it not to obviously win everything, which is, that's obviously what the plan is, to win every single contest you ever play. But that's not realistic. But you want to win more than you lose when you're playing head-to-head. So that's why they say one lineup and head-to-head contests are better, because you want to take advantage of the fact that your lineup is solid and that you're going to beat more opponents than you're going to lose to. So that's really what I want to touch upon, is the difference in the cash games, because it is a big difference to me, and the strategy of playing multiple lineups in 50-50s if you're playing a lot of 50-50s. Me personally, when I did my 50-50s, I played 3 lineups. I just usually took different paths when I built my lineups. I would either do, stud heavy and scrub heavy if the value was there. If there was multiple studs I liked, I would build a lineup around one stud and then build a lineup around another stud. And sometimes I would go balanced, which I will speak to you guys about maybe on my way home. Speak to you guys about lineup construction and different paths to take to build your lineups. I really wish I had thought to start doing this while I'm driving before, but you just don't think about everything that you want to think about, because I feel as if I can speak to you guys without having a computer in front of me, although that's obviously a productive way to get the message across, is by showing you guys what I'm talking about. But I'm going to do what I can do to educate you guys as much as I can if I don't have the time to do it at home. So what I'll do when I get to work, I will go through my plays. I actually get off at about 5:30, so I should be able to do a video and run through my plays. I won't be able to show you game logs. I won't be able to show you how the lineup looks as a whole, but I should be able to run down, the plays that I'm liking, the value, the 2 cheap guys, the 2 expensive guys, etc. So I'll be able to do that. And you guys can, follow along on your computer or your whatever you have to build your lineups, write it down, take a picture, whatever you want to do. But yeah, if you got any questions, just feel free to shoot me a tweet. Hit me up in the chat. Any way you feel that you want to reach me, reach out to me. And I don't mind helping, because I don't consider myself a pro like Solly Sud and Chipotle Alec. Like I'm not one of those guys. That's not who I am. But I am a guy that has played long enough and played enough, have won enough and lost enough to know some of the nuances of this, and what works and what doesn't work, and what should work and what shouldn't work, and what may work and what may not work. So I'm not going to come at you from a standpoint of, oh, I'm a professional, I know everything, this is how you do it to win. Because let's keep it real, if these professionals are truly giving out all of their stuff that they use, then they're not going to be where they're at, because they're going to bring the masses up to them. So I'm that guy. I'm speaking from, I'm like that small town councilman, you know what I mean, that speaks on behalf of the people, that's among the masses, that's among the people that's playing day to day, not playing thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars a day or a week. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where I'm coming from. Just in case you want to know, why do I feel as if I have the right to make a video? It's because I've been there. I've been where you're at, and and I hope to get to where you want to get to, and I don't mind, helping you out, because as I help you out, I help me out, just by discussing everything. So I'm pulling up to work, so hopefully y'all enjoy this video, and I'll try to go over my plays after I get off. Later.